All right, the first thing you're gonna notice is how my workstation is set up. I have all my colors laid out. Across the top, I have my newspaper underneath my workspace. I have a piece of paper towel for myself to use my color wheel, and my water bin off to the side. And I'm going to start with a primary color. I'm gonna do all my primary colors first, since those are the colors I don't have to mix. So if I'm starting with my primary colors, that means I also do not need to use a paint palette at this time. So all I'm gonna do is dip right into the color that I'm using and paint it right on. And that's it to begin with. As I'm working, I'm going to be using a back and forth method with my paintbrush or a swipe method. So right now I'm just going back and forth, and occasionally you'll see I do just a swipe in one direction with my paintbrush. For small areas, that tends to be the best technique to use. I did go out of my line a little bit, so I need to slow down a bit. So my red's complete. Now before I move on, I am going to need to wash out my brush. So I'm going to use the ripple side, just gently back and forth with my brush, and you're going to see how well that color comes out. I'm going to just make sure that I don't have any red by checking it on my paper towel. So I'm going to just pinch the edge of my brush, make sure it's nice and dry, no color left. So now, okay, so you can see I have all three of my primary colors done at this point. So now I'm ready to start actually color mixing. So at this point I'm going to need my paint palette, and I'm going to begin with a secondary color that's the color directly between your two primaries. So I'm going to start off with my orange, and the way I'm going to remove paint from the cup and get it into my palette is by picking it up and scooping it with my brush, and I'm just going to rub that side of the brush into my palette. So again, just pick up with a scoop and just brush it off to the side. Before I go into the red paint though, I do have to make sure that I clean off my brush and dry it so there's no water getting in the paint. And then I have to try to guess and see if I'm getting the correct amount. It's kind of a guessing game a bit. And I'm going to stir that up and hope that I get a really good orange. It's kind of a middle color there. And that looks like a pretty good orange. Looks a little dark on the camera, but I'm gonna use that. And again, using a swipe method, slowing down a bit so I stay in my lines. I can also go back and forth, and make sure to move your tools out of your workspace so you have room. And I'm done with that, okay? Now, my goal is to use up this paint still. So I have an orange in there. Again, it looks somewhat dark, but hopefully you can see that's a pretty decent orange. So I'm going to now create the lighter color that's in between my orange and my yellow, and that's my yellow orange. So I'm going to take a big scoop of yellow and I'm going to mix it into my palette there, and I'm going to hope that I get a noticeable difference between this color and the color I used for my orange. So let's see if it's noticeable difference next to my orange. Yep. It does appear to be lighter, which is what a yellow orange should be. It should be lighter than my orange. And this is trickier to paint in because it's a smaller space. So now I have my yellow orange. I'm gonna wash off my brush, and now I'm gonna mix my red orange, and I'm gonna actually only use my one space still. So I'm gonna take a big scoop of red, maybe too much, and I'm going to hope that I change this to a darker orange than the regular orange I used, because it should be more on the red side. So I want to just make sure it looks darker than my orange, which it does. So I'm getting a nice thin layer of that color on. Notice I have a unmixed part on my brush yet. And now I should be able to see the difference between my red-orange. It should be darker. My orange should be kind of the middle color in there, and then my yellow-orange should definitely be the lightest. So I should be able to see the difference between those three colors. And so then I'm going to move on to another set of colors like my greens or my purples. And when I get into the middle, then I'm going to watch how to do a tint, tone, and shade. And that's it for now.